once again, everyone, Don Henderson with you in another Wednesday night conversation of the world of sports. And what a night we have for you today. We're going to jump right into it. No dedication this evening to our executive producer. So Frank, I'll pass it along to me. We're coming is all of a sudden 10. Well, we've got so much to talk about between the companies and your Buccaneers, but I'll tell you, your quarterback, last week they got off to a 3-0 start. I got to let you start there.
Yeah, the Buccaneers, back before the season started, when you consider the injuries that they were dealing with before the season really started, and they realized they were hurting a little bit more up front on the offensive line than people suspected when they just thought they'd be without Tristan Wirfs for a month and without Chris Godwin for maybe a month and a half. There was hope in Tampa Bay that maybe they could go 500 through those first 4 games. Well, here they are 3-0 and facing an Eagles team that they've had some success against in recent years. And they got them at home, and they're doing a pretty good job of stopping the run these days. And, so Bucs are feeling pretty good about themselves. And there's a chance they might have Chris Godwin back for this game along with Tristan Wirfs. So we'll see where it goes. But right now, the Bucs are playing pretty good football, and it's arguably because it's primarily because Baker Mayfield's playing pretty good football. And I think I mentioned here last week, it's time to start talking about Baker Mayfield. So easily is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, if not among the top 5. I mean, you look back over the course of the last 2-3 years, and he's playing as well as anybody in terms of production, touchdown passes, completion percentage, passes completed, yards, the whole bit. And he's really just he's just been a marvel here in Tampa, and proving yet again that Jason White made easily the right call when he decided to give him a shot, give him a 1-year contract, and see how he can prove himself. And boy, he continues to prove himself worthy of not just that contract, but maybe a bigger one.
Well, in Tampa, and of course the Eagles right now 3.5 point choice, 44 points, the number for the day. We also have to say that Mayfield has been without number 13. And he's not going to have 13 for at least another month.
Yeah, well, he lost him in midway through the game last week, or late in the game last week, and to a hamstring issue. I mean, it happens every year with Mike Evans. It's just kryptonite. He's got a bad hamstring, always has. He tends to miss, a couple of weeks here and there every year, sometimes more, due to a hamstring strain, and yet he still ends up catching 1,000 yards worth of passes every year. So the good news is the Bucs have obviously plenty of weapons to work with for Baker Mayfield, and including their first-round draft pick, and Luka, which right now is proving to be as good a draft pick as anybody had in the first round this year. I mean, he's really stepped up and played a huge role for the Buccaneers, and played hurt last week and still made some big catches. Like I say, Chris Godwin, injury report came out today, and he was full go today in practice. So there's a chance they could actually get him back very soon. So we'll see where it goes. But no Mike Evans, that's tough. But they won without him last week, and I'll tell you what, Baker Mayfield finds a way late in games. Don't hand him the ball with 2+ minutes to play and down by 4 points, because he might beat you.
Well, we're going to be talking a lot more about the Eagles and Buccaneers as the next 2 hours unfold. Roger, you probably have been a lot more confident about that new coach you have in Atlanta, but I'll tell you, they came out and laid another egg this week.
Well, they did, and I think that Rashima is really on tenuous ground. This team was expected to get off to a really good start, and they seem to fold. And the Bucs are just continuing to play well. I don't know whether they're good enough to beat the Eagles, to be honest with you, but that's just my opinion. Because I think the Eagles learned, and we'll talk about the Eagles afterwards, but I have my opinion about that. But I don't understand the Falcons. I think they have the talent. They said that Penix is going to continue to be the quarterback. The Giants made their announcement that they're changing quarterbacks. And I thought that they did, make a change late in the game. But Penix is the man, and I guess they're going to go forward with him no matter what. But I'm starting to question the coach, and I know you guys know him pretty well down in Tampa. But I think now they really have to start to question.
Well, a little more football before we jump over to baseball, because so many things are happening on the baseball front as well. And so as we take a look at this Eagle-Buck game on Sunday, I think the interesting part, Roy, and you're in a better position. You see them all firsthand. I only saw it on TV. And the way he's been able to come out in the last minute 30 seconds after sometimes a disastrous series against the Buccaneers just prior to the last 30 of the game, he's still able to right the ship and get them in.
Yeah, and over the course of the first two seasons, I think I may get this stat wrong, but apparently it's the first time in NFL history that a player has had back-to-back fourth-quarter game-winning drives after being down by a certain number of points. It might have been 9 points or more in NFL history. So again, I heard your defensive coordinator this week saying about Baker Mayfield. I'm not quite sure why all the teams that had him before the Buccaneers let him go, but that was probably a mistake. He's right. I think he's right. But of course, we kind of expect the Browns to make mistakes, especially with quarterbacks. We kind of expect the Panthers to make mistakes with quarterbacks. So no surprise there. But at the end of the day, let's face it. As I said, Baker Mayfield is just proving to be one of the top quarterbacks in the game. Somewhere in that, top 10, he's there. And he's led the Bucs to the playoffs now, a couple of years now. So we'll see. But I tend to, in games that are close, you tend to go with the better quarterback. And I gotta say, guys, I think the Bucs have the better quarterback. Will the Eagles beat the Bucs? Not if they play the way they did last week. Probably not. But the Eagles, that is, they're going to have to run the ball a little bit more effectively. But that's tough to do against Tampa. Tampa can be thrown out, and that's an issue. That's something that I think the Eagles will take advantage of. I think Jalen Hurts could have a big game in this one because the Bucs, for whatever reason, tend to really struggle when it comes to first of all, they can't get to the passer. They're very weak in terms of pass rush. They've got a blitz. Jalen Hurts is going to see that. He'll recognize that probably. I think he could be in for a good game. So it's a bit of a toss-up. I guess the Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. You said 44 points. Sounds a little bit. I would probably bet the over on the points. I'm not a betting guy, but I would probably bet the over on the points because I think both defenses are kind of vulnerable at this point. So we'll see. But Eagles probably have the better defense. I think the Bucs might have the better offense, despite all the injuries. Let's not forget, obviously the Eagles with Saquon Barkley have arguably the best running back in the league, but the Bucs might have the best running back room in the league. They can throw a couple of different guys at you in a couple of different ways and keep it going.
Well, we got so many things to talk about this evening. Also, I got to go back to the Monday night game, or not Monday night game, Sunday night game. How in the world Baltimore can entertain Detroit? First of all, we talked about it a great deal last week. I can't imagine that is the third game of the season, number one anyway. But let's forget that. Forget the scheduling. But 17 points in the fourth quarter. Now you see Baltimore blow the game in Buffalo in the fourth quarter. You see them blow the game at home against Detroit, with Detroit scoring 17. What do you make of that one, Roger?
Well, what I make that is that what a lot of Ravens fans feel, including a gentleman that Don, Frank, you and I are familiar with. I know Roy doesn't know him, RG. He'll tell you that Lamar Jackson can't win the really big game. And I think Sunday night was a really big game. And I think Detroit had a bad game that first game of the season. I think they're a tremendous team. I think they're a Super Bowl contender. I think they have a great coach. And I think that is the bottom line on why the Lions came back and won the game.
But really, Baltimore going into the season, by all the prognosticators, was the number 2 pick to get to the Super Bowl. Eagles obviously were going to be number 1 to return, if that's possible, which is hard to do. But number 2, Baltimore was number 2. But boy, you wouldn't know it after those first 30 games.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the way Baltimore's come out. I've always felt that Baltimore, to me, is a team that is just a bit overrated. I mean, look, Lamar Jackson's really flashy and showy. I mean, he can do anything. It seems as a quarterback, but I just think it's a team that sometimes is too reliant on its quarterback. Baltimore defense, much like the Steelers defense, is not the Steelers. It's not the Baltimore defense that we remember. I mean, or people have thought about. You used to have in Baltimore. Obviously going back to the Ray Lewis days, but I'm talking about just the fact that that defense used to be really, really strong. It was one of the obvious strengths of that team, and not so much the case anymore. I mean, Roger, I hear what you're saying about Lamar Jackson, but he was 21 of 27 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 148.1 quarterback rating. If you ever thought last week's game was a big one, I don't know that a quarterback can play any better than that. So I'm not putting this one on Lamar Jackson. Maybe you didn't watch the game, but
no, I watched the game, man.
Well, I thought
stats don't win games. Okay.
What was that?
Stats don't win games.
Well, the quarterback do, and he threw for 288 yards.
They lost the game. They lost the game. That's the bottom line.
And he gave up 38 points.
Well, it's going to be argued back and forth.
I understand with that argument. All right, next.
Well, let me jump to one more before we switch it, because there's so much stuff to talk about tonight. I want to go ahead. Lynch, of course, is a great favorite, going into the Hall of Fame with the Buccaneers and so forth, and it took over San Francisco. But when he came back and with no time left to win, and they're 3-0 now. Wait, what about the 49ers?
And with a backup quarterback right now, and a lot of people don't believe that their first string quarterback. I would say this, maybe look, some teams just breaking out of the gate a little bit better than others. I would say San Francisco's in that mix. They've also had the benefit of a schedule that's a little bit favorable. At Seattle to start, Seattle's not special right now. At New Orleans, that should be a victory. And at home against Arizona, which, a lot of people think Arizona can play, but I think they're just a team that, just kind of toys with the playoffs. They're not our team. So I don't know that they've really been tested. And I don't know that they're going to be tested. They got Jacksonville next, and then they got, they will be tested eventually. They get the Rams coming up after that, and then the Bucs, but then the Falcons. And, Roger, as you say about the Falcons, I don't know what to make. Look, if we want to talk about the Falcons, I would say that, you're getting what you should expect out of Michael Penix. Okay, he played a few games last year, but still, he's a quarterback who's learning. And they're they're quite reliant on him, much like some other teams that we talked about, much like Baltimore, relying on the quarterback right now. The defense isn't as good. Much like Pittsburgh, defense isn't as good. I'm not sure Atlanta's defense is as strong, but San Francisco, this is good for them because this shows that they can beat the teams they need to beat. And if they do that, well, they just might hang around long enough to get healthy and get some people back that they're hoping to get back, and somehow maybe squeeze into the playoff thing. So I think they can do it.
And Roger, the Cowboys are about to disappear, and the Packers have to win this week. They cannot afford to have the Cowboys beat them and come back like they did last week.
Well, you're exactly right, and I think they will. To be honest with you, but I just want to say a couple of things. We've always heard, and we've heard coaches over and over for many years. There's three parts to a game: offense, defense, and special teams. And I don't think you'll ever get a weekend where special teams had an impact on games like this last weekend. At least I can't remember it. And I know, Roy, you have the Eagles and the Rams, two great quarterbacks, okay? And the Rams could have won that game, but special teams for the Eagles won the game. And there were other games where special teams won the game. And I just think that special teams many times are not given the credit. John Harbaugh was a great special teams coordinator for Andy Reid. I see Danny Smith with the Steelers. I remember when he was with the Eagles years ago.
Roger, George Allen, special teams were number one.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's my point, Don, that you have to have a great special teams team. And that gives you a chance to win games many times. And I think that was evidenced in several games over the weekend.
Roger, it's a really good point you make because obviously you're referring primarily, I'm sure, to the return kick or the return block kick for a touchdown.
Yeah, Jordan Davis.
Sealed the game, obviously. I mean, that could have been an Eagles loss. Look, the Buccaneers had the same thing happen go against them, where they gave up a block kick for a return for a touchdown, or block field goal try, return for a touchdown. That was almost devastating to Tampa Bay. It put Baker Mayfield in a position where he had to bring him back yet again. There were, 5 other blocked kicks last week? But, and we all know, those are called hidden yards. Special teams yards are called hidden yards. But you make a great point, Roger, because right now, the way the kickoff rule has changed, where you're basically forced to run the ball back a little bit, those are hidden yards. And you're seeing some teams starting, 35, 40 yards upfield, whereas, we remember the time not so long ago where if you let it just go in the end zone, you got it at the 20. So teams are basically starting in scoring position because this new kickoff rule is making the kick returns exciting again. And the teams who are best at that, I think I haven't seen any stats on it yet, haven't done any research on it myself, but I just sort of get the feeling the teams that are going to be best at returning kicks are probably putting themselves in the best position to win games because, or at least score points, because that's a new element to the game that hasn't been factored in just totally yet. And I think it's what's probably allowing some teams to benefit and succeed where others maybe aren't. And Roger, to the point of the Falcons, they're obviously one missed kick off the goalpost of being 2-1 instead of 1-2.
That's
so
right.
Again, special teams make it up. And don't forget, I think we talked about it already last week. I think it was, or maybe after week 1. There've been a bunch of kicks that hit off goalposts already this year. So and we were wondering about that. I think it was last week or the week before. So Roger, you're right on the mark with this. The comment about special teams. It's made a big difference for a lot of teams already.
And I think you have to add in the factor that these 1-point wins are so very, very important at the wire. I mean, whether it's Tampa Bay going 60, but the thing about the kickoffs. And I really got to I go back to Belichick. I talked about this 3 years ago against Belichick. Before they changed the rule, he tried to have his kicker kick the ball somewhere around the 5-yard line and make them run the ball back because 9 times out of 10, he'd come out way ahead of the picture and he'd have the opposing team somewhere around the 22, 23, 25-yard line. Now, they don't even try. I mean, they kick it to about the 10. And unless they have a real clear shot at it, they just run it right out there to the 30, 35-yard line.
Yeah. Well, it's a rule that it looks a little quirky to the traditionalists like us, the guys who've been watching it for 50 years or more. But it's something that kind of was developed in maybe not the USFL, but one of the spring leagues. and they modified it just a little bit, but I think it's working. I think it's made kickoffs a part of the game again, whereas they were clearly not part of the game for a while. They were concerned about, obviously, injuries, and rightfully so. But at the end of the day, I mean, they brought the kickoff in a game called football. They put, the kickoff back into the game and made it meaningful. So I'm enjoying that part of it.
All right, let's switch over to baseball right now because I'm watching both games last night. The Yankees are obviously on Yes, and the Mets are on SNY. And the Mets had their biggest comeback in the history of the year. They were 5 down to the 6-1 at one point. Wound up winning the game 7-5 on some unusual plays. And in the Yankee game, they were playing the White Sox, the other side, south side of Chicago, and they go into the ninth inning losing 2-1. And they got a runner on third and 2 out. After they play runners on first and second and nobody out, they do a double play, so they've got a runner on third and 2 outs. And the pitcher throws a wild pitch for the White Sox, and they tie the game at 2-2, and then they go on to get themselves into the playoffs. But neither here nor there. I mean, if I read the statistic correctly, and I rely on you more on the Chicago stats than I rely on myself, to be honest with you. 17 games now, the White Sox have gone into the 8th or 9th inning leading and have lost the game. 17 times. Now, I think that's what they said on the Yankee game last night. And they went into last night's game. They got 2 outs and a runner on third after they had forced a double play. And they're going to walk off the field with a 2-1 win and keep the Yankees out of the playoffs. And the pitcher throws a wild pitch, the runner scores from third, and they win the next day. I mean, what kind of baseball is this?
Well, I'll say this. I don't follow the White Sox that closely. But I know one thing. First of all, it's a team in transition. That's number one. Not a good team to begin with. Not a whole. I mean, they brought up almost all their prospects are in the regular lineup now on a daily basis. All right.
Right.
That's number one. Number 2 is they do not, and I don't mean this facetiously, but they do not have a closer. If you look at their saves, Jordan Leisure has 7. Grant Taylor has 5. Mike Vassell is a rookie. He's got 4. Brandon Eisert, another lefty rookie, he's got 2. Steven Wilson's got 2. I mean, they don't have a closer. They don't have a designated closer. I'm not sure they've got a designated 7th and 8th inning option. Most teams, if they've got a lead, 3 runs or more, or 3 runs or less, let's say, they know who's going in the 7th, who's going in the 8th, who's going in the 9th. The White Sox don't. So that's one thing. And the Yankees took advantage of that, as so many other teams clearly have. I'm not surprised by that stat. It makes sense to me. It's the first time I've heard it, but it makes sense because they just don't have a closer. And by the way, Jordan Leisure, their leading saves guy with 7, he's not a closer. All right, I can tell you that right now. Maybe they're going to make him one sooner or later, but he's not a closer. I mean, when he came up, he was a starting pitcher. So not sure exactly what the game plan is there. We'll see. But, the bigger story, I think, in baseball, there's a couple of teams that are obviously rallying. The Yankees are one of them. The Mariners are another. But if you guys take a look at what's happened in a couple of cities here.
Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, Cleveland has been remarkable. But what Cleveland has done has coincided with the Tigers losing 10 of 11. What the Cubs have lost 6 straight. The Blue Jays, who were in first place, seemingly comfortably a couple of weeks ago, they've lost 5 of their last 6. The Dodgers are a 500 ball club over the last 22, which is why the Padres are still trying to win the division. And the Astros have lost 4 straight. So, we've got the haves and have-nots all of a sudden among all the playoff teams. And the best race in the bunch to me is, probably Yankees and Blue Jays. But, I mean, what's going on with the Tigers and Guardians is just nothing short of special right now. And, the Guardians last night, I mean, talk about a meltdown. The Guardians ended up scoring 3 runs in a situation, an inning where they didn't get the ball past the pitcher's mound. They scored 3 runs. They bunted the ball. They had a couple of bouncers. They had one attempt at a sacrifice that Tarek Skubal tried to get to the first baseman as if he was an NFL center, trying to snap the ball through the back of his legs backwards. It was crazy, and then what they did changed it all. So teams are just kind of melting down here as they get ready for the playoffs. I mean, the Cubs haven't won a game since they clinched. The Tigers haven't. I don't think they've won maybe once since they clinched. The Guardians are just flying, and the Yankees have found their mojo again. So it's really an interesting period during the season. About the only team, Roger, that's healthy and well and seeming to play good baseball among all the teams that are pretty much designated to get to the playoffs right now is, dare I say it, Philly.
Well, yeah, but what happened last night, I don't know whether you listen or watch the game, but what happened was Rio got hit with a foul tip, serious. And they had a long delay, and it was raining lightly, and they knew it was going to get heavier. And the Duran had one out, had already gotten out, and it was 0-1. And then there's this long delay. And you know how that'll throw a closer out of sync. It happens many times. And then what happened was the guy hit a home run that happened to make it over the wall, and that tied it up, and then they had the rain delay. But I really think that they were afraid that Realmuto might have had a fingernail taken off, which definitely would have impeded him throwing. And they were very concerned about it, and that's why there was the long delay. But I really think that the way Duran was pitching, he was in sync. He got the strikeout, and then he got 0-1, and boom, they had that was the foul tip, and things did not go well after that.
And I couldn't stay up. I listened when the rain delay, the Yankees and the Mets both games were over. I said, this is enough for me. I got to go to sleep on this one. But it's a very big day, Roger, in Philadelphia. We have a young man there in 1952, was one of the greatest pitchers in the American League that year. He won the Cy Young Award, and he's 100 years old today.
He certainly is the great Bobby Shantz, 100 years old today. And go ahead.
He's a little ahead of Roy's time, so I'll wait until the end of the first segment to bring him up. Roy's not quite ready to go back to 1952, and when he was really just wool on down with the A's, and then of course over to the Yankees, and then back with the Phillies. But the little guy at 5'6", one of the great pitchers of his time, a left-hander, 100 years old today, Roger.
Yeah, Roy, I have to tell you, in 1952, we lived in Germany.
This is Steve.
Hey, Steve, it's Frank. How you doing?
Good.
How's Buddy doing?
Good. He gave me a scare. Woke up with an upset stomach, but it got better as the day went on. So
all right. Good. We'll keep you on the prayer line.
Thanks.
All right, mix you in.
Bobby Shantz won the MVP, as I recall, in 1952. Robin Roberts, I think, that year was 28-7. So here you had two pro-ups in history. Both completing games, game after game, and both of them 20-plus game winners. But he also was with the Yankees, in addition to the A's, and also with Phillies. So you probably didn't know much about him, which I understand, Roy. But Bobby Shantz was a tremendous pitcher.
Well, I know you're right. Look, I'm obviously a big baseball fan, but Bobby Shantz, yeah, that's a name I know. And I know it because he was one of the best. What's amazing to me is back in '52, you could be 5'6" and win a lot of games. pretty much not the case anymore. You don't find too many 5'6" players in the game period anymore. Much less pitchers, but yeah, there was a time when Bobby Shantz, absolutely. I mean, that's Philly's royalty right there.
We're going to do some more baseball conversation in the next segment of the show. Kinsella is going to join us right here to please complete his first half hour.
Don,
But I wanted to get
Stevie's on with us now, Don.
Pardon me?
Stevie's on with us now, so he might want to blend in with this.
Okay. Well, let me do this then.
Let's say one other thing, Tom, before we're on things. You probably heard the passing of the late the great Bernie Parone. And we're going to
hold on a minute, Roger, because
Yes. So did Casey.
When did you work for Philadelphia? So we'll get to that next. Let's go to one thing at a time.
Well, I wanted to bring it up while Roy was still on because
Okay.
I'm happy.
All right, go ahead. You guys run it.
It's been look, we've lost some legends from the game of hockey over the last few weeks, guys. I mean, it's really been not, obviously Bernie Parone, Eddie Shockman, Ken Dryden. It's the good Lord has taken some of our greatest goaltenders away. I mean, the guys we all looked up to. Certainly, I looked up to as kids. I mean, they were all. Look, I wasn't a big fan of Ken Dryden because his Canadians kept beating my Blackhawks all the time. But Bernie Parone, look, absolutely one of my favorites. And same with Eddie Shockman. I mean, one of the last guys to go without a mask in the game, and pillars in the game for sure. And it's just sad that we've lost him for sure. But especially Bernie Parone. I mean, he was one of the greatest guys ever. I mean, this was a goaltender who was as outgoing as any human has ever been. I mean, always a smile on his face, always happy to have something to say.
And we're going to do a whole segment on it in another 10 minutes. So I mean, we're going all left and right here in the wrong direction. Okay, thank you very much, Roy, once again. I want to get to Steve for a couple of reasons. One, we were talking about Bobby Shantz in 1952, and of course, Roger and I are old enough to remember Bobby very, very well in his great days with the Philadelphia A's. I know Steve's a little bit too young for that one, but Steve, all I hear about, and I want to talk at the top of the show tonight at baseball from an opposite direction. I want to talk about teams that have gone south, like Detroit. Detroit was 12, 13 games up, and now they're and everybody forgets 1951. Oh, this is the biggest loss in the history of baseball. Well, if they were live in 1951. The Dodgers were up 13 and a half and lost to the Giants in the playoff. So don't tell me about. I know about 1951, and I know about 2025. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, you also know about the Yankees tracking down the Red Sox in 78.
Right.
What makes Detroit's tumble so significant? When we just watched it, I'll make it quick. Is they stumbled and Cleveland got within a game or a half game or two games, about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago. And then Detroit pushed the lead back out to 8 or 9 or 10 games. So when you do that, when you go through a slump and the other team gets hot and then you pull away, you figure that's it. You generally don't see it twice in 1 year. And Cleveland's cut the deficit twice now in the last 3 months, which is unbelievable. We'll see how Detroit finishes. It's going to be a fantastic final 4 or 5 days here.
Roger, let's go. You're up now. Let's go.
I have nothing to say. You keep on going. Talking baseball with Stevie.
That's what we're talking. We're talking.
Go ahead. I contributed. That's it. I'm out of here.
Oh, okay.
You guys, just continue. I have things to say, and go ahead, and I'll say them later.
Okay. Well, let's get back. How about the Yankees, what they've done and what they haven't done, and now what they've done again going into last night? I was a little surprised they had quite as much celebration in the clubhouse that they had after the game last night. I mean, they're still one game back at this moment, Steve, but they did regroup. Aaron Boone was able to bring him back. He got him into the playoffs, definitely. So we go from there. Your thoughts on the Yankees going into the playoffs?
Well, the Yankees they always make the playoffs, if you notice, and that's not the barometer that they use in New York to determine Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman's success level. They'll get to the playoffs, but, Boone's going to have to advance in the playoffs and get, hopefully win a title for the Yankees. Getting to the playoffs, they celebrated. Now they would like to get to the division, of course. And I think Boston is playing Toronto.
No.
There, but it would be really interesting to see if Boone and Cashman get that title into New York. They haven't won since 2009, and I'm sure that people in New York are dying for the number 28.
As Roy talked in the first half hour, the Dodgers and the Padres keep trying to climb. They keep trying. 11 years now, they try to catch the Dodgers and knock them out of the picture. No one knows more statistically about baseball than you do. Not at the minor league level, but also at the major league level. What is the situation with Davey and the Dodgers that they just can't see to wrap this year up?
That I was just talking to someone about that earlier. The Dodgers have just never gone into high gear. They've gone from neutral to drive, but they've yet to go into overdrive. Maybe in the playoffs, they take off again, but a little bit here and a little bit there. Mookie Betts hasn't been himself. They did have injuries to the pitching staff through most of the season. Now they're strong right now. They're 6 strong in that rotation right now.
Right.
Bullpen's been injured. Will Smith has a hairline fracture in the hand. All year long, Max Muncy's been banged up a couple times. They've just never been able to find that cohesive 26-man roster pushing forward in the same direction. They're 2 games up. It hasn't been a great season for them, but I'm sure when they get to the postseason and they look at those 6 starters they get to choose from, which is very dominant. Glasnow, Snell, Kershaw, Yamamoto. You just take a look at Emmett Sheehan. They're loaded at in the rotation to choose from in the postseason. They'll be a tough out in the postseason, but I'll be very interested to see, first of all, if they can, close the deal on division between now and Sunday.
Well, Days finds a way to do it. He did it last year in the World Series against the Yankees. All of those bullpen and players, and nobody ever expected it to come out the World Series heroes. But he went on to get the World Series by doing exactly that. And so we'll see what happens then. Dave has a way of doing it. Anything else really surprise you right now? Seattle, for instance, they got themselves a good lead out west, and it looks like they're going to be a strong contender. What do you like about Seattle?
Cal Raleigh. It's just a great story. The switch hitter, catcher with all the homers, and
right.
They got a dominant pitching staff. They went out and got Naylor and Suarez. They're hitting on all cylinders at the right time. We'll see what they do in the postseason, but it is interesting. One of the little sidelights, we talk about it in a lot of sports is, if they wrap the division up, they're playing the Dodgers this weekend. Do they, lay off some of the, do they lay back on some of the players, pitchers, and position players and give them rest? Or do they try to go in there and compete with the Dodgers and keep that momentum going through Sunday and see how that goes? So I'm kind of interested with Seattle just to see how they compete this weekend against LA.
Is Rudy Carter, you in here or no?
No, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm taking this all in.
Okay.
But I do want to ask Steve one question. And this goes back to last night's Phillies game. I mentioned it with Roy. I don't know if you were watching or into the game, Steve. But what happened is that Realmuto, it was the bottom of the top of the ninth, and the Phillies were up 3-2, and the Duran had a one out, okay, on strikeout, and the Downs got there was a foul tip, and it hurt Realmuto's hand. They thought that it might even have taken off a fingernail, which would have changed everything. But he was able to stay in the game. But there was a long delay, and it was slightly raining, and then they had the long delay after the home run. How much would you feel that with a closer concentration and the stability, where the guy really is focused on the game, plays into the game of baseball?
I think focus plays a lot into it. I think I think it's paramount for a pitcher, especially, to be able to focus on one pitch at a time, forget what just happened and everything. The pitcher has to wipe away the memories of the last pitch, the last ball in play, the last situation, and focus on what he's doing on the next pitch. Where's the pitch location, who's on base, what's the situation. Mentally, that's very difficult. If you're, we heard about when there's a fast runner on base, dividing the pitcher's attention between the base runner. That's not made up folklore in baseball. So it's very important that a pitcher is able to concentrate and does not get taken out of the rhythm in any way. And if there's a long delay and the pitcher kind of loses their focus, their adrenaline, their whatever it may be, it's definitely a variable, and you have to learn how to cope with that, because there's going to be times where you may have that in a crucial situation. You may have a delay, and you're going to have to be able to rein it in.
See, I'd like to throw this one at you because we started this segment talking about what happened with Detroit. Well, what happened with the Mets? I mean, they did climb back in last night. They're in the playoffs as of right now with that 9-7 win over the Cubbies in Chicago last night, which was a big win for them, coming from 6-1 down. Biggest margin of difference for the Mets all year. What about the Mets and what about the whole structure of this team and the money that they've spent and where they are?
Well, most of the Mets story can be talked about with the injuries to the starting pitching staff. Really put them in the hole for most of the year. They're a lot like Detroit in the fact that they were flying high through June.
Right.
They got swept by the Rays at Citi Field, and then they went into the tank for about 30 games. Then they came out of it and played rather well for a good month and a half, and then they went back into the drain. So you generally don't see that kind of up and down from quality teams in a season. You generally see one down period. Usually you don't see two. And for us, as fans, to get to see Detroit and the American League have two collapses, and see the Mets in the National League have two. A great example would be a couple of years ago, both Arizona and Texas. Arizona and the Rangers, they both had a horrible 30-game span. Texas barely made the playoffs, and Arizona got, they were able to right the ship and get in there. They ended up in the World Series against each other. But both of those teams have one awful 30 to 40 game period, but that was it. They didn't have a second one. So it is interesting with Detroit and the Mets. And who knows? I mean, all they have to do is get to the finish line in a playoff position, and all can be forgiven, and then go on at Rangers or Diamondbacks.
Roger?
Well, I'll say it's the Phillies had it too, where they had their ground as far as scoring runs, and I think they're back in that now. Believe it or not, they're down 1-0 tonight to the Marlins. They only got the 3 runs last night. And they lost the last 2 games to Arizona on the road trip, and they lost that last game to the Dodgers in that series. And a lot of fans felt that they peaked like about 3 weeks ago. I happen to be one of them, and this is what I was concerned about. They're down now. They probably are going to get the bye. Okay, possibly. Well, you don't know. You never know. But, yeah, right. And but I am very concerned with what happened to them last year, and I'm very concerned that this is exactly what's happening this year.
Yeah, that's always something, I don't buy into it too much about peaking early. Teams like Arizona and Texas a couple of years ago, like I say, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen in the postseason. Cleveland was hot as hell back in 2016. And they crawled into the postseason, and they used 2 starting pitchers, and Corey Kluber every third day it seemed, and got to Game 7 of the World Series. The Cardinals back in what was 87 barely eked into the playoffs after collapsing down the stretch, and they ended up winning the World Series. So it's always difficult to say when a team is playing poorly that it'll help them, that it hurts them going into the postseason, or a team that was hot going into the playoffs suddenly can't do anything, and they get eliminated right away, and you're like, what the heck just happened? We were so hot going in, So, I guess the moral of the story is just get to the postseason and then let the story play out. For you and the Phillies, is if you get to the postseason and you have a repeat of no offense and you get eliminated because the bat can't score any runs, that's going to stick with you going into next year, and then later in next year, the peaking early and stuff like that, and how do you overcome that? So it's all very interesting to me, the storyline that teams can create in the postseason, but it's all about getting to the postseason first. So the Phillies are in good shape. They put the work in, and hopefully for you Philly fans, the momentum and the magic comes back in the postseason, and we're not looking at, hey, we peaked too early,
Nobody knows statistics better than you, and I think Roger will agree with me. The one thing that the Phillies did consistently early in the season was hit relatively good pitching and good pitching. Then they went into that little bit of a doldrum where they didn't hit good pitching again, and went through games where they scored 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run. They seem to have that plateau where they jump in and out. As you look at them going into the playoffs, do you see that as a trend? The pitchers are the ones that create the loss of offense for the Phillies?
Well, I think I've mentioned before, I'm a big believer in the arms, and whoever's standing 60 feet, 6 inches away from home plate controls the game in my world. I don't give hitters much credit. I never have, and I probably never will. I'm just addicted to, the guy in the center of the diamond controlling everything. But it'll be interesting. I mean, again, it all comes down to getting that big hit, getting that big break, and the baton being passed from one hitter to the next hitter, kind of a contagious thing, and it feels good when it happens. Unfortunately, as you're seeing, it works in reverse as well. A lot of times on a team, once one guy is struggling, the next guy is struggling, and so on down the line, and you go in the opposite direction. If you go back to my Tampa Bay Rays in 2023, 2024, same thing. I think they scored, maybe a couple runs they got to the postseason with a very potent offense that went away in September, and then they got to the postseason and scored. I think in the series against Cleveland, they scored 1 run in 27 innings or something, and then the next year against Texas, they scored like 3 runs in the 2 games. So I'm familiar with offense kind of going into the tank all together in one unit. Like I said, I mean, maybe it starts off with, the first game of the playoffs, one guy picks it up, the next guy picks it up, and then everybody feeds off of each other, and you guys go on a magical run all the way through.
Steve Kinsella is our guest this segment, and of course, Steve, one of the baseball experts that we talk to, and just don't get to him enough during the course of the season. We will during the playoffs. Roger, you're up.
Well, getting back to that point, Steve, that's my point. The Phillies had problems scoring runs against the Mets last year once they got into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then, like Don said, they've had droughts with scoring runs this year. But it really concerns me now because I guess they're down to the last 6 games of the season, and they play the Twins on over the weekend in Philadelphia. But I just, you get concerned when you see a team consistently inconsistent about scoring runs. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when the Braves won their World Series a couple of years ago, they were very consistent about scoring runs, and they got good pitching too, no doubt about it. But the Phillies have gotten great starting pitching, and the relief pitching has been pretty good, especially after they got Durant. But they just the runs, and I know, and Alec Bowen's back now. I mean, they're still not at full stand. Because Wheeler's out, being everything. But they do have it, and so they should be scoring runs, and especially against the Marlins.
Yeah. Well, remember, as I was saying earlier about guys passing the baton and helping each other, you go back to that Braves team that you just alluded to and mention the players that were hitting well in the postseason and scoring runs, and those are the hitters that weren't doing anything when they were acquired. None of them. I mean, the only guy was the outfield.
Freddie Freeman.
No, well, they had Freeman, but you take a look at was it Eduardo Escobar, Jorge Soler, all the guys they picked up that came in that weren't doing anything. They needed outfielders because they had lost Acuna Jr. and a few other guys they had lost, so they went out and they picked up a bunch of guys who combined were probably hitting about 2.25 on the year, and they came over to Atlanta, and the postseason happened, and all of a sudden these guys couldn't make it out.
Well, he just hit a home run to go ahead 2-1 over Marlins right now. Left center field, a real shot. Hit a real shot. I'll tell you. I know I can't see who's up. But anyway, it's 2-1 at the moment.
Yeah, it's all. But I get it. It always feels better to go into the off. No matter what, the next 5 or 6 games, you all feel better if the Phillies are scoring 5 runs a game.
Right about that was Sosa, Don.
Yeah, with Sosa, hit the home run. I just saw it turn around. 33. But anyway, Steve, as you look ahead real quickly at the playoffs coming up, and then of course, hopefully to the World Series. What would you say right now is your thumbnail sketch of a team that you want to follow because you think they're the one that has a real shot?
I'm going to say Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee just has a knack for putting together offense the game, whether it's scoring runs, preventing runs, pitching, relief pitching. They just seem to be a team that, no one talks about them. They're not a high payroll team, so they would be kind of like the Royals winning back in 2015. They don't get a lot of fuss. They don't get a lot of press, somehow, like one of the other team in the American League is Cleveland. Somehow Cleveland wins. They have a horrible run differential. They don't seem to do anything well. Outside of Jose Ramirez, I don't know what they have offensively that you can count on night in and night out in an extremely productive way. And here they are somehow competing. So those are the 2 teams that I'm kind of really interested in seeing. Does the magic run out for Cleveland, and it's all smoke and mirrors? But Milwaukee, no one talks about them, and they seem to be a very solid team. And I would love to see Milwaukee get back to the, back to the series, and at least we can relive some of the Harvey Wallbanger moments.
Steve, as we wind up this segment, I agree with you. We talked about Milwaukee a lot during the course of the year because, and I used the phrase in some disagree, but I don't think if you went around the country, they could name 5 players that play every day from Milwaukee. I mean, you're right. I mean, they do everything right. I mean, the bullpen's right. The defense is good. It's not good. Defense is great. And the timely hitting, everything they do is right at the top of the sheet, and yet nobody knows who they are.
Right. Now, that's the team I'll be watching to see how they do, and it would be nice for baseball to have the good old payroll World Series turned on its ear and have Milwaukee and Cleveland up against each other. That would be something that would be different than it's been since the last 10 years.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about Kershiser, too, with stepping down at the end of the year. But, Steve, thank you so much for this segment. Roger's got a special guest he wants to bring in now.
Well, he has the flu, so we're going to keep on moving.
I guess I was supposed to guess about that. Okay.
That's my fault. I forgot to tell the commander. I found out a little while ago.
Okay. All right, Steve, you got a couple extra minutes. There's something else you'd like to throw in?
No. I mean, I'm just excited about the final weekend of the season. There's some good races out there. The Yankees and Blue Jays. You know, who's going to hold on to that American League wild card? You know, is Detroit going to fall completely out? Is Cleveland going to take the step forward? You know, there's so many good storylines. Baseball this year is headed to a Sunday that, you know, everybody's starting at the same time. Sunday could be must-watch baseball in NFL season, which you don't get too often, but we could be heading to that this Sunday.
Roger, you want to close this segment?
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking, Steve, what would be interesting is if the Tigers win the World Series by some way, and also the Lions wind up winning the Super Bowl. That would be a heck of a celebration in Detroit.
Yeah. No love for the Pistons, I see.
Well, Steve, I will thank you once again for this segment. We're going to go to a Temple, Philadelphia deal now from Tampa, Florida. Paulie Parone is one of the ones that has put it all together. Our good friend Tommy, when he was here, Tommy G, when he first started this show, he was a big part of Tampa, Philadelphia. And so we're going to get a chance to talk to the mayor. And is Paul ready right now?
No, I'm just getting him on. I was waiting for, just got that news that we don't have the next guest on from Roger. So I'm going to get him on in just a minute.
Hey, Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Paulie. How you doing?
Good. You ready?
Yes, sir. I'm going to merge you right in.
So people that have had it have been out of work like 2 weeks. Some people, you know, and I don't, you know, I got my flu shot the other day, so and getting my COVID shot next week. So, but what we were going to talk about, and we'll talk about it next week, but it's the advent of girls and women's flag football. And it's become a very big sport, no doubt about it. High schools have it. It's even coming into middle schools. Colleges have it. And it's now a sport that has scholarships. And it's just growing leaps and bounds. The championships were in Atlanta. In Atlanta, we're at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. In Philadelphia, they were at Lincoln Financial Field. And I know.
What kind of crowd support do you have, Roger?
I would say they get, pretty good crowd support. I was at the district playoffs a couple of years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago, as a matter of fact. And it was really interesting. It was at one of the local high schools. There was a good crowd there. Fox 5 was there doing highlights. So they were giving, getting a lot of notoriety. But I will tell you, Don, when you talk to a coach, he'll give you a lot more insight. There was this one team in Sequoia High School, which was in the general area, not in the county. They had a quarterback there that was throwing in the air 50 yards and was on target every time. I never remember one time she was not on target to the receiver. And I was very impressed. And the girls are very dedicated. I've had them in school. And it's just, and what happens is that when you do games, you have 2 games. It's 4 teams. And that's the way they schedule it. You know, it'll be like on site for, one team. But then it's like the old NBA with the Warriors. Remember when they had doubleheaders? So the Warriors played one game, but then there was another game with 2 other teams. And that's exactly the way it's scheduled.
Paulie's ready to go.
All right, Paulie, we're going to join us right now. We're going to talk about something a little bit different in the city of Tampa, Florida. It started a long time ago. In fact, I'll let Paul talk about it because Paul had this first get initiated. I know that Tommy G was a big part of it. More people turn out on a Sunday afternoon while the TV sits in a hotel or whatever to see the Philadelphia Eagles play than almost any city in America other than Philadelphia. Tell us how it all got started, how you got to be the mayor, and where it stands today.
Well, it started when another guy and myself decided to go out and find a Philadelphia Eagles game down here in Tampa on a Sunday afternoon back in 1994. We found it, and we met a few other guys. We pulled together, and that first season at the end of 94, I coined the name Tampadelphia, and we started to get together for Eagles games after that. And it just grew. It grew through 95, 96, 97, and into the 2000s. Now it's pretty large. Tampadelphia is still about the same thing as when we started 32 years ago, which is a pretty good game day for us Eagles fans. It's about good football and good food, fun, family, and friends.
Now, what do you do this week when the Eagles are actually in Tampa, Florida, and playing the Buccaneers? Do you still have it outside, or where do you hold the meeting on this Sunday?
Well, we just recently changed venues. We were at another place for the past 6 years, but we needed something a little bit better and a little bit larger. So we moved over to the OCC Roadhouse Grill in Clearwater, Florida on 49th Street North. And it holds well over 1,000 people. They have 67 TVs that are 65 inches or better. And there's incredible seating capacity and opportunity for fast service, good food, and good visibility for the games. So we'll be local. A lot of people are going to go to the game, but a lot of people are not because of weather conditions, prices, and other things.
Roger? So you have 1,000. Is that just for the one game because they're playing at Tampa this Sunday, or is that your scheduled venue all the time?
No, it's not that big all the time. I mean, really, football is the tide goes out, the tide comes in. Depends on the record, the team they're playing, depends on how close you are to playoffs, things like that.
Do the Eagles send you a lot of stuff to promote, to give out prizes or anything?
No, not a thing. I buy all my own prizes and raffle them off. That comes out of my pocket. We're a 501c3 and not-for-profit, so we do get a couple of breaks here and there from some of the beverage companies that may have a little promotional device, a little promotional piece for the Eagles. And sometimes we get people within our group that have different items through the years, and they donate them back to us and take their raffle list off, see if it'll work. So we have throwback days and other ways to use that.
Well, when you say that, now you have a venue that's grown to as many as 1,000 people. That's a pretty big venue, and all the TVs and everything that's set up. What would you say, let's say this particular season is going to be a good season, obviously, for the Eagles. Everybody's expecting them to go right straight through into the deep into the playoffs, if not the Super Bowl once again. What would you say would be your average crowd this year as opposed to, say, 2 years from now if they're just going to make the playoffs?
Probably, in terms of the percentage drop off, if we fail to make the playoffs, probably about 20% of the crowd will dissipate. Because people find other things to do, they'll watch more games at home on TV. The price of the NFL Sunday ticket is kind of prohibitive. A lot of people aren't doing that anymore. And it's really expensive, $200 now to bring in the NFL games. I don't know if you guys will hear that or not, but the NFL is really charging everybody a lot more money to be able to watch the entertainment.
There used to be a similar situation a sports bar over here in Cumming, Georgia, Paul. And they have a room, and they have a lot of Eagles signage up and everything. And I can remember I went over there one time because I thought they were having it, but it had already folded. I mean, they just did not get that group of fans anymore. So, everything has its life span, and but it's great that you are continuing on like you and Tommy did starting out all those many years ago, and it's still going strong. It shows you
It is.
job you've done.
Yeah, you're right. And, Tommy was a big part of who we were and what we did. I always look forward to Tommy coming by, and I always sat with Tommy during the game so we could banter back and forth, on what we saw and didn't see. So you kind of miss that a little bit. So wherever Tommy is, I want him to know he's still with us and probably by my side. So.
Hey, Steve.
No question about that. Paul is with us every week on the show. We talk about him not only during the National Hockey League season or not only during football season, of course, the golf run as well. Now that the big weekend coming up this weekend on Long Island, Tommy was involved in so many different things, and it was just a big part of the entertainment factor of what sports are all about.
Hey, Paul, you have I'm sorry, Paul. Paul, you got a big program coming up on Saturday afternoon up there at the OCC. Do you want to explain that to our fans in the area so they can come up?
Oh, sure. They're invited. It's free. There's no admission, no cover. Tampadelphia is like that. We try and keep everything reasonable for everybody. OCC is fabulous as a host in a venue. We have put together an opportunity to watch. This Saturday is going to be some phenomenal college games on TV. They'll be on TVs all over the place. But our event on Saturday is going to have a buffet. If you don't want to order off the menu, the buffet is reasonably priced and it's loaded with a lot of good items. It's unlimited, all you can eat. We have food and drink specials. We have Eagles decorations all over the place. Banners hang from the ceiling and they're up on the walls throughout the whole entire season there at OCC. We have things to do like ride a mechanical bull. Yeah. We have also, the beanbag toss, free pool tables. We have 2 live bands. We have dancing for the ladies. We have raffles every 2 hours. It's just going to be a lot of fun. It starts at noon. It ends at 7 p.m. Our part of it ends at 7 p.m. But, these venues are open until the wee hours of the evening. So we're people that are coming down and looking for someplace to go, for something to do, hopefully we'll fill that gap for them. And also, if anybody's local and they just want to check it out, have some time, we're the good guys among the Eagles fans. No drunks, no brawls, no F-bombs. We're not choir boys, but we keep it reasonable. We've all grown up, and, to us, it's a game and a lot of fun. So,
anything else, Frank, you want to touch on?
No, I just wanted to bring that up because Paulie and I were talking about it earlier. This group is a really good group to be with. They have people from every walk of life. Paulie does a great job of rousing them up when it's time. And he's also there with a crying towel when it's not time. So I just want to make sure that everybody knew that. Paulie, give the address for the OCC again for our listeners, and then we're going to go to Tom Lemay.
I'll give you this way to find it. You can look it up on the internet, but it's, I believe it's 105 49th Street North. But if you go to Ulmerton over in Pinellas County, which is an easy landmark off the Howard Franklin Bridge, it's one of the exits. Or if you're coming up anywhere in Pinellas County, Ulmerton, go to 49th Street North, go south. If you're coming from the north, you go north. If you're coming from the south. And it's about 3 or 4 blocks below Ulmerton on 49th Street. There's a huge American flag right in front of the place. They're very patriotic. And there's a Harley Davidson museum right next door for free. A lot of the props inside OCC, which stands for Orange County Choppers, by the way, are pegged to the television series that were on North and South, which is Orange County Choppers. There's a lot of props from TV.
Well, Mayor, let's hope you have a great success on it.
Hello,
Good evening, sir.
Frank. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Tom?
I'm getting away with it every day.
There you go. I'll meld you right in.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's great to talk with you.
Take care, Paul. Good luck on all your endeavors.
Thanks very much.
Okay, take care,
All
Tom.
right, now we're going to go to Tom Lemay in Philadelphia because we're going to dedicate this segment of the program to a sad note. In fact, Paulie Parone. We were going to talk about it We chatted about it a little earlier, but anyway, Tom Lemaine, one of the outstanding communicators in the Philadelphia area, both radio, television, weather, news. If it was on in the electronic media, Tom Lemaine was at the head of the class. So, Tommy, first of all, nice to have you back with us. You were with the Flash for such a long period of time in different capacities. Bernie Parone was someone you knew very, very well. And I talked to Roger a little bit earlier yesterday, and he said you had a very interesting story to top things off about Bernie and how he called you on the phone and he needed a little assistance.
Well, when he was injured, Don, it was really a freak accident. Don, he was trying to make a save or intercept a pass from Esposito to Don Maloney. And as he went to his right, Jimmy Watson took out Maloney, and as a matter of fact, was penalized on the play that Bernie was injured. But in taking out Maloney went to the ground of ice, of course, and his stick came up, and the butt end of Maloney's stick went into the right eye of Bernie's mask. Now, if you remember how Bernie's mask looked like, there were only 2 holes in the mask, and they were for the eyes so he could see. So you gotta think, what are the odds of any part of a hockey stick going through that small hole in the right eye of Bernie's mask? Incredible. It did enough damage to the point where Bernie suffered loss of sight in that eye, and he had an appointment with an ophthalmologist to get the final medical word on it. And when I was talking to him about it, he said, "Tom, why don't you come with me to the doctor's office and we'll find out what he says." Well, the doctor decided that because of the injury to Bernie's eye, he could no longer play hockey. And I said, I felt really bad. But I was really hoping that Bernie would be able to see for the rest of his civilian life, outside the sport of hockey. And when the doctor said, I don't think you're going to be able to play hockey again. And I said, Bernie, this is terrible. I think the fans should know about it. Would you be okay with me mentioning it on my sportscast tonight? And he said, no, Tom, the folks have to know, and that's what I'm going to find out, so you might as well know. So on my evening sportscast that night, I broke the news that Bernie's injury is a career-ending one.
Roger, you're up.
Well, he just passed away, Tom. Like Tom said, we talked about it a little bit with Roy. Roy's such a big hockey fan. And, he was just a gentleman. And I talked to Dan Baker yesterday, and what people forget is that Dan was doing the Philadelphia Blazers game when Bernie was the goalie for the Philadelphia Blazers in the WHA back in the 70s. So, and I'm sure you were out at those games too, when you were at the Channel 3.
Well, I didn't take in too many Blazer games, to be honest with you, Roger. I was quite busy. When you have a city where there are 4 professional sports teams, and don't forget the following year, the Phillies won the World Series, so the Phillies were a hot team back then. And in that year, it was incredible. It was Bob and I were only ones doing sports at Channel 3. And that year, 80-81, the following year after Bernie's injury, all 4 teams went to the championship game. Right? That'll never happen again. First of all, your city has to have 4 major teams, and for all 4 of them to play in the championship game in the same year is incredible. So, in answer to your question, I really didn't see too many Philadelphia players because,
well, maybe Don did. I don't know because
I'm with Tommy because there were so many things going on and continually going on in Philadelphia. And there's so many sports that you wanted to cover more, like indoor soccer and all these. but there just wasn't time. I mean, first of all, there wasn't air time to put it on anyway. But number two, your own time. I mean, by the time you went to press conferences and player introductions and all this, I mean, you just didn't have time for it. But going back to Bernie for a minute, one of the really great people, not just great hockey players. I mean, we're talking about a guy, you know, who won almost every award in hockey. He was a Stanley Cup champion. He was a Vezina Trophy. I mean, he did everything you could possibly think of. And more important, I tried very hard yesterday. I said this to Roger and also to Frank. I tried very hard yesterday and this morning to get a hold of the chief, Bobby Taylor, because they were such good friends. And Bobby still lives in Tampa, and Bernie lived in Tampa. They went out on his boat all the time. And I wanted to have Bobby join us too to talk about and just give a little bit of a tribute to what kind of a person and what Bernie Parone meant to the Philadelphia Flyers in those championship years.
Well, you know, he had a 1-point-something goals against average, and he definitely he won the MVP as the goalie. He got the goalie award and also the Stanley Cup playoff award the same year. You can't do more as a goalie for your team than Bernie Parone did those 2 years at the Flyers, who won back-to-back Stanley Cups. But you're right, Bernie was such. You know, I got to know him a lot because I was traveling with the team many times on the road. And just to give you an example of what he's like, we're flying into Edmonton, which, by the way, that's the coldest I've ever been in my life. Edmonton, Alberta. Anyway, Bernie comes up to me and says, "Hey, Tom, do you think we're going to have a fresh coating of snow?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, I mean, it looks like how many inches?" He said, "It'll be good because it'll make tracking easier." And I said, "Tracking what?" He said, "Moose, Tom, moose. We're going to hunt moose." I said, "We? Yes, you're coming along with me. We're going to hunt moose." And I'm going, "I can't believe it." And he said, "Not only that," he said, "but we are hunting moose with a bow and arrow." Well, last time I strung a bow was when I was in the Boy Scouts. You know, I learned how to string one. But you try to string a 100-pound bow with temperatures in the 20s. I mean, it has you shaking so much. It's so cool. I barely string the bow. No, and needless to say, we never saw a moose that ever got a shot. But just to hang out with him, and I mean, that's what. Why do you want to know if we're going to have a fresh? The game's not going to be canceled. But no. We have a day off. We're going to go hunt moose. Okay. I'll tell you what, if I see a moose, I might run the other way.
Well, the other thing he loved as much as hunting in cold weather was he loved to fish. He had the boat over there, and Bobby, the chief, went out with him a lot on that boat. And but he went out almost every day. He was a fisherman.
Yes, he was. He ended up, as many of those Flyers from that team ended up living in the Philadelphia area, and Bernie made his home in Cape May, and for a while lived on a houseboat down there. And of course, fishing was, well, let me put it this way: it's a hell of a lot easier than hunting moose. In 20-degree temperatures in Edmonton, outside of Edmonton. But you know, he was an outdoorsman, and you know, Bernie never had a bad day. You know, you hear that from a lot of people, but he was always up tempo and jovial. It didn't matter, and you know, he had a lot to do with keeping that locker room on the left side. I mean, no matter how bad a game the Flyers had, he'll come in and drop a line or something like that, and just smile. All he has to do is walk into the room and smile, and the whole attitude of the locker room changes.
Hey, Tom, do you think that when he got to the pearly gates, he may have had a problem? Because, you remember when Freddie was Freddie had Freddie had stickers made up that he had that the guy who saved more had more saves than Jesus Christ was Bernie Parone.
No. Only the Lord saves more than Bernie Parone.
Yeah.
And when you get to the Golden Gate, there is a you know, a kind of a stature as far as the order goes, as far as there's God and the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
So Bernie, the Lord, I believe, was the Son of God. And if God himself has the final word as to who gets in the Golden Gates, I think Bernie was good.
Yeah.
Being a military guy, I always refer to the chain of command.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, did his kids are they still in the Philadelphia area, Tom?
They are, yep. And a lot of the, like I said, players are still from that team. You'd be amazed that about half the team set up residence in the Philadelphia, South Jersey, mostly South Jersey. And that team that they were playing, they all lived in the same residential area outside Cherry Hill. And, they all decided to make, and you still see them around today, a lot of them.
Tommy, I think one of the interesting things about the Flyers of that era and the players, as you say, 50% still living in the Philadelphia area, but they were a unique group. Hockey players are a little bit different than all the other sports combined. They were the most cooperative. They would do almost anything you asked them to do. But they had also Freddie Shiro. They had characters you wouldn't believe. And, and that sort of molded this group together like almost no other team. I worked with, and you worked with so many teams. I don't remember any team that I could say molded together like those guys did.
Well, to this day, Don, as a member of the media, what I always appreciated, and I'm not the only one, when you interviewed a hockey player, you didn't get the standard locker room talk. We got to do better.
Right.
They would give you a straight answer right to the exact point that you are asking of them. But, those guys there was no BS with them. You always knew where they stood, and they introduced, they're called the Broad Street Bullies and everything. They introduced a style of play that was, in addition to their talent, God knows they had talent, but they were just an intimidating team, and that wore off onto the fans. And when you came into the Spectrum to play the Flyers, the chances of you winning were pretty slim. And the intimidation factor, it even goes to the intimidation factor when they played the Russians, if you remember.
707, every time you turn around, Tommy.
Yeah, the Russians, they said, we're not playing these guys anymore. They were so intimidated and getting beat to the puck. But that's when Ed Snyder stepped in and said, you don't play, you don't get paid. And then they came back out of the locker room and finished the game. But they were an intimidating force. Once they picked up guys like Dave Schultz and Moose DuPont, they blended in with the great talents that Bobby Clark and Billy Barber and Rick McLeish had. And Reggie Leach, without a doubt, the best shot I ever have seen in hockey was the shot by Reggie the Rifle. And if you ever played golf with him, which I have, and we still remain friends, he has his golf shot is the same as his hockey shot. I mean, it goes like 120 miles an hour. And he along with, as I said, the LCB line, Clark and Barber, Leach, Clark and Barber, they were just outstanding. And I don't think there was a guy who was more graceful on the ice than Rick McLeish. But then you had the Hound and guys, and of course Dave Schultz, who took the other side of the game. They had a perfect blend of toughness and skill. That's the best way I can describe the Flyers that won back-to-back cups.
Roger?
And Gordon Dornhofer would stand right outside of the goal mouth and take care of business there, which you don't find from many players today. One of the things Don had asked me, and we'll both ask you, when is the funeral for Bernie?
They haven't been announced yet.
Okay.
They have not been announced. You're right, Rod. Those guys, they just stand alone as a classic. And you wonder, will you ever see that kind of hockey again? I don't think so, because today, you know, the rules have changed and everything, and you're not going to see the way the Flyers played hockey back then. That kind of
sport, Tom. Every sport's changed now.
Yeah, you're right. And, money. To me, it remains. Hockey remains the best thing. It's not as simplified as baseball and football. There are so many rules in hockey that are hard to understand. But once you understand the rules, you get more bang for your buck in a hockey game than you do at any of the other three sports. There's no dead time. When that clock is running, the clock is running, the action is taking place. There's no downtime getting up from a huddle. There's no downtime between innings, it's basketball timeout and dribbling the ball away. And, hockey is just, I remember it happened so fast. Gene Hart would be a stickler for pronouncing the names of players correctly.
Absolutely.
He would say to me about some of the Russian names that came in, he would say, Tom, you're not pronouncing this guy's name correctly. And I said, Gene, the guy's name has 3 consonants in it. By the time I correctly announced his name, I missed a play. That's how fast the game is. And Gene, he was so proud of me one day. He came up to me and said, Tom, for the first time in the history of the National Hockey League, 5 Russians have started a game, and that was with the Detroit Red Wings, and that was a remarkable time to have something like that happen. And I said, Gene, that's really good. That's an earmark for the statement for the game of hockey. I said, but at the same time, Gene, the Boston Celtics started 5 white guys. So you tell me what is the most difficult thing to do? and for one time, I had he had no answer for that one.
Well, I think the other thing about it was that she was a stickler for every woman. When they did the Russian game, I'm telling you, he was better with the Russian names than the Russian announcers were. It really was. He had a flair for doing it. One other thing I'd like to bring up before we run out of time, and that is, we talked about the cooperation of hockey players compared to if a hockey player came down. If you went down for the morning shoot or whatever, I don't care, whatever time it was, and you asked a player, I don't care which one, if you said to them, look, I'd like to spend 2 or 3 minutes just do a quick interview, and they'd say, yeah, well, we're in the middle of this, but I'll be over there in 15 minutes. I'll be there in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, whatever you need, I'll take care of it and we'll go. Every step they came, you never had to chase anybody down. They came and they did whatever you asked them to do. They were the most cooperative. I don't care whether it was the front office, whether it was the coaches. Well, Freddie was a little different, but they lived in a different world.
Joe Cadillac. You'll find that to be true today too, Don. Up until the day I retired, I found even this modern day era, the hockey players are the most approachable, and they give you straight answers.
No question.
No double talk. None of this normal locker room stuff. They will be specific about answering the question exactly the way you wanted it to be answered. So you would never need a follow-up question because they would answer it fully. And as you said, Don, you would not, if you had a request to talk to a player, you never really had to go seek him out. He would seek you out to find out where you are to do the interview with you. And that's remarkable to me. And like I said, it was that way then. And it really is the same way today with hockey players. No matter whether they're the older guys or the new kids coming up, they are just the most approachable, honest players you'll ever find.
Well, of course, I'm not that close to it anymore as I used to be, and it was a terrific opportunity. I loved every minute of it, and Roger, you're up next before we close out on Bernie.
Yeah, just wanted to, before Tom got away, what do you think, Tom? The Flyers going to make a move up in the standings this year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have made, now that Briere has put his input on the Phillies, Roger, the players they have picked up, Zegras and Dvorak. I watched the preseason game last night against Montreal. And you got those two guys that are vying for a spot. They'll probably both be on the starting team, but they're sort of decent. From what I saw last night, they're still going to have to work on the power play. They had a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes last night and did not score. But they need, I always said this, I've said this, the Flyers need a shooting coach. For like 2 years in a row, the Flyers led the league in shots taken and shots missed. And that can't continue. When you get an advantage like, power play they had last night, I mean, you just have to have a guy who, they don't have a sniper, but maybe they do this year, or maybe they have enough talented players who can set up other guys who have a better shot at making a goal as opposed to.
I'm going to put you right in, sir.
Let's go.
God damn it. Come on. What the hell is going on here? Hey, let me call you right back.
Got it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, we're back on.
Okay.
Doug screwed us off. He came in too early. That Mike's not going to be here. He sent me a message about 5 minutes ago that he's sick.
I didn't hear what you said, Frank. I'm sorry.
Mike just called it, said he's sick. He can't be on tonight.
Oh, okay. Fine. That's good. I'd take off tonight for us. We're in good shape.
There we go.
Hello?
There we go. Go ahead. All right, Don. Doug's on.
All right. Well, boy, I got so many questions for Doug tonight. Our PGA Master Professional. We used to just say PGA Professional. Now we did a very select group, PGA Master. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you watched any of the ceremony this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're back on.
Tomorrow and some side for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And all I can do is hope that they get the best possible opportunity to play that golf course at its very best. Your thoughts?
Yes, they did the opening ceremony today because of some inclement weather that they're predicting. Take a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, egos and different things. I have a tendency of playing into those. I think if I did not want to be up in the ceremony, I was kind of going up on it here. You Frank put me in, and you go right into the book, and I didn't get warm up most this year before I had to get here. But I think there were some key takeaways. I think Keegan Bradley, it sounded like his speech was, I don't know, a little bit of emotion, but he was basically saying, I think I need the American crowd to support me and my players no matter what, kind of a, escape clause there. And I think,
but also he emphasized courtesy. He emphasized the fact that, cheer for whatever you want to cheer for, but remember, this is an important event in the United States at a miraculous golf course, and don't embarrass it.
Yeah. I mean, that's easier said than done. Talking about New York,
Right.
But my thought. I think Donald was kind of poking, I think, a little bit at the United States with regard to the fact that the United States players are being paid to play in this, and I think his captain was kind of something like.
I was really disappointed in that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Doug, for those people that are listening and don't follow golf that closely, and I may be incorrect, but I believe that the United States players are getting $500,000 each, and the European players are getting nothing.
That's probably where my PGA dues money goes.
I just don't think. This is a major sporting event. This is not supposed to be for players to make money. I mean, I'm really disappointed in that.
Kind of crummy that, I think that the inspiration in this would be the, competition of the two teams and what they're going to use for the United States. I mean, geez whiz. I mean, a person like me, I'd just like to have the gear that they have when it comes to like all the uniforms, swag. I mean, that's some serious dollar bill right there. But yeah, I think Luke Donald was kind of poking fun at him, saying that we're inspired more than money to win this. I think is kind of what it encapsulated in terms of the statement. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think. The formats that we talk about with the foursomes ones is the hardest, I think, format for the United States typically, and it has been for some time. Essentially, it's alternate shot. Don, you're going to hit the even hole. You're going to tee off on the even holes, and I'm going to tee off on the out holes. Right. I think that's kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to pairings. You can't put a long knocker with a short knocker, and you know what I mean? Like there's some strategy to how you want to play that, in terms of their games and how they match up. And again, you also have egos that play in there, as I mentioned. You also have, to me, there's a certain level of comfortability that I need to have with my partner. You know what I mean? Like I like to play golf with someone who's a little more low key. I can't take somebody who, could make a cup of coffee nervous. Somebody who's amped up, somebody who's a faster paced person. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't bode well, with me. So I know that they've had plenty of time to go through this practice that they've had and different things, around they played and figuring this out. But I don't know how much faith I have in a guy like Keegan Bradley, as a captain. It would be just certainly my opinion. I've heard some different things over the years that he's not a very well-liked person on tour. I'm not sure how that bodes into being a captain of, a leader of men. So we'll certainly see how this plays out. I mean, I think if the United States gets off to a slow start on Friday, that's problematic. I think, to me, the fun of the entire event is the singles matches and how they the pairings that they have. If you remember, I think it was it Kiowa several years ago. It was Patrick Reed was playing against Roy McIlroy, and I swear to God, one of the two of them birdied. They just kept making birdies back and forth. It was like one of the best Ryder Cup one of the best matches, period, I've ever seen. Then the secondary match that was just as good was Sergio Garcia against Phil Mickelson. And boy, you want to talk about just clutch shots, clutch putts. I mean, it was phenomenal to watch. That was my most favorite Ryder Cup that I've ever seen. It was great to watch that.
Roger?
Yeah, well, I was listening to the Mad Dog today, Christopher Russo. He was out at Bethpage already for the rest of the weekend and the entire tournament. Mm-hmm. And he had Mark Cannizzaro of the Post on, who's a really a good writer and knows a lot about golf, obviously. And they were talking about the course and also about the crowds that they expect, which may be the biggest crowds that they have seen in any tournament this year. And I guess
50,000, Roger, is the number we're using.
50,000 a day.
Yeah.
A day. Well, then that would probably top the Masters or any other tournament then. And that's a lot of people. That's right.
That's a lot,
Especially on those roads.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, and especially this time of year because you're talking about a weekend still in September on Long Island, where the beaches are still nice.
Yeah.
So I found it very interesting, and I'm a bit of a fan of Kinsella. You probably are too. If you post all the time. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot going on. I mean, you still have Yankees and Mets that are, involved in the playoff chase here. You've got, Jets and Giants. I mean, it is what it is. You've got football, but there's so many really cool things that are happening right now in sports across the board.
Yeah, the Yankees are up 5-1 right now, and they're having another field day against the White Sox. So I don't expect that.
Phillies are 7-1, and he hit another home run.
Number 12 hit one out, way out. Not just a little home run. He hit one way out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think, but I just wanted to touch on it because I just hope the weather. And the other thing, one of the last thing on the golf front first before we go to something else. I'm a little, Roger just alluded to the Post today's major article, and they think that the European team may have a little, if you're a betting customer, may have a little bit of an edge playing on this golf course. Because a great number of the players, of the American players, have never played this golf course, many times, and so they're not too anxious to see how well this is going to go over this 3 or 4 day period.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got several. I think was it 3 or even 4 of the United States team are Ryder Cup rookies.
Right.
So you've got. I mean, look, it's going to be hard to properly frame this for anybody that's listening that either does or doesn't play golf, only in the sense that, like, when you go to the first tee, if you're talking like Sunday morning at your home country club, like if you're not nervous with a bunch of 15 people that are standing around watching you, you're not human. Like, what would you be like standing on the first tee at Bethpage Black with crowds of 50,000 people and how many millions of people watching on TV, and you're playing, for your country, and like that's holy crap! Like, I mean, I couldn't even spit if somebody I wouldn't have enough moisture in my body. It's the most unbelievable thing, like for these guys to go out there and hit some of these shots under that amount of pressure.
Even with all their experience, even the fact that they've been playing golf their whole life and they've been playing in tournaments, this is unbelievable.
You could talk to anybody that's ever played in a Ryder Cup in their entire life. I mean, you could go back to the greatest of all time, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. Like, you can just keep going. And these guys, we would probably tell you this is like another level of performance. Like, this is a higher calling when it comes to golf. You know what I mean? Like, this is the utmost. So, I mean, as a fan, I know you're a huge golf fan, and Roger, I think you watch and have a lot of experience behind the golf game. But it's great to watch this every 4 years and see this level of competition is just spectacular.
Roger?
Well, it is, and I think for a novice golf fan like myself, and but I know a guy here. He retired early. He plays golf every day. Every day, and I just know my limitations about playing golf. As I've mentioned many times, last time I played was in the media golf tournament that Mike Smith had when he was coach of the Falcons. And I just don't like to go out and embarrass myself. And, you know, and I think it's very, it's not right for the guys that you're playing with, you know, to take that long like I did. And, but I'm looking at this. I love the Masters. You know, I've been fortunate to be there twice for practice rounds, and I love it. It was years ago, but I could see it's going to be a nightmare getting in and out of Bethpage, because there's going to be people that have tickets that are going to be there every day. And well, look at the problems that you have in Flushing up to the Open, the U.S. Open tennis court. You know, that's all day. I've been there a number of times, and that's just all day, all night. You know.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked to that before we leave the golf and go to football and some other things. The other thing that surprised me, not only the fact that the American players were getting paid, which I always said at the beginning, I just, to me, this is, I don't think it should happen. If one side's not getting paid, the other side shouldn't get paid as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But add to that, do you see the prices for tickets to this thing?
I had no, I mean, like, well, I've always been spoiled because as a PGA, I don't generally have to, like, I have to show my card and I can get in, which is like cool. I have a really high deductible on my insurance, so it kind of offsets. But aside from that, like, you know, I mean, there's like when you go to Augusta, Roger, you know this, like. The tickets are free. Like, you don't have to pay for tickets. You just have to get them, which is to say you have to put your name on the waiting list and you have to be lucky enough to be awarded to them. And there's a certain disclosure that they actually tell, at least they did to me, that suggests you cannot transfer these tickets. Like, you cannot walk out of the area and like see some guy across the street and say, hey, here's my ticket, go ahead and get in. Like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Right. So, I mean, you know, I'm sure like any other sport, you know, you walk down to Camden Yards or any other facility that's housing a game of sport, you know, there's people on the streets that are saying, hey, I got tickets, hey, I need tickets, and, you know, the whole scout. I think it's great.
Well, the other thing I just wanted to touch on too was that as we look at the National Football League right now, I would like you as a football aficionado with the Ravens. What did they do in Buffalo and duplicate in Baltimore on Sunday night? What is going on in the fourth quarter of the Ravens game?
Yeah, I was really excited to watch that football game. I knew it was going to be a good game against the Lions, although the Lions don't travel very well. They're certainly much better in Detroit, but it's always fun to watch the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson in particular, under the bright lights of a Monday night or primetime game. Halftime was 21-21. You know, it was 28-24 Lions. And full disclosure, I turned the TV off when Derrick Henry fumbled and said, that's it. Like, we're done. You know what I mean? So you can't turn the football over as much as they do in key moments. And I think it's been an Achilles heel for them over the past several years. When you talk about their attempts to win playoff games, their attempts to, obviously get to the Super Bowl, they just continue to turn the football over in the most inopportune times. I mean, in all likelihood, again, as a fan, like, the Baltimore Ravens should have beaten the Buffalo Bills last year in that playoff game. Mark Andrews caught that football and fumbled it. And then, obviously, they still had another chance. They missed the 2-point conversion. because he dropped the football there. So they've lost, 2 games this year already. They scored 40 points against the Bills and lost, and they scored 30 points against Detroit and lost. And both of those were really pinpointed towards inopportune times of coughing up the football. I mean, in that particular case, 28-24, they held them to a field goal, so it was 31-24. But then David Montgomery scores that long touchdown. There's in Baltimore, we'll just say the DMV in terms of the support of the Ravens, there's a number of people that are very unhappy with Harbaugh. There are a lot of people that are extremely unhappy with Ford as a coordinator. We've talked about this before. I mean, they play the Kansas City Chiefs this week. It doesn't get any easier. They just keep, playing really good teams. And if you're going to play really good teams, you have to play really good football.
Well, Roger and Roy had a difference of opinion in the first half hour of the show. So let me get Roger on here and talk to you about his situation with the quarterbacking and what he thinks about how the game wound up. Roger?
Well, I'm only going by what several of my friends that are Raven fans have said over not just the other night, but that Lamar Jackson cannot win the big games. Now, Roy's point was well taken. I mean, the statistics that he had in the game, okay? No doubt about it. And he's a great player. Is he a tremendous leader? I don't know. I mean, I see his play on the field, but I don't know that he's a great leader. I do feel from everything that I know that Jalen Hurts is a great leader. Okay, do you understand my point with this whole thing? But you know more than me. But he had the statistics, but for some reason they just can't win. And I considered this a big game on Sunday night because it's the only one on television. And they were playing a top-notch team. I will tell you this. My opinion is they will win the game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not what they've been in the past. Their defense is not what it was. And I think that being at the top of the mountain as far as the draft goes for so many years, it finally takes its toll. That's my opinion.
So, I mean, look, the people that are in the media, the critics, so to speak, are always going to say Lamar Jackson can't win the big game because he hasn't, right? But here's kind of the thing is, Dan Marino was a Hall of Fame quarterback that never won a Super Bowl.
Never won a Super Bowl, right?
So, I don't know, I get tired of hearing people say that Lamar Jackson can't win the big game because in some of the biggest games that he's played bigger than a game. You know what I mean? I mean, their defense has struggled. They've fumbled. They've done all these things. Everybody points to Lamar Jackson as the one that can't win the big game. It's not. It's you look at his statistics this year. He hasn't turned the football over yet. What has he done wrong? Derrick Henry fumbles the football. We lose the game 2 out of 3 weeks. Why do they keep saying Lamar Jackson can't win the big game? He's done everything he needs to do. I just get really it's old news when people keep talking about. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't win a Super Bowl his first 9 years. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. They're going to continue to say this until something changes, which is to say everything comes together and he wins the big game. But that's not about Lamar. It's just not about him. He's won.
But that's what Peyton Manning said in the pregame show for Sunday night. He was on it and he said, "Listen, look at the number of years I played. I had to live with that for 9 years. I didn't win. I couldn't say anything about it except yes, I didn't win."
Lamar Jackson, his father never did.
No, his father didn't have any kind of thing.
No, but he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
The best season that Lamar Jackson's had so far was last year, and he didn't even win MVP. He should have won it. He's won it twice. What else does this guy have to do? When you talk about leadership to me comes from Harbaugh. Leadership to me comes from the 53 men on the field, like that are making on the roster. Like I don't like to your point, Roger. I don't know what Lamar Jackson's like as a leader. What I do know is he works his behind off and he wants to win. He's a winner. That's a fact. But I don't know what that translates to. You know, when you're talking about leadership, you know what I mean?
Well, what happened is on Sunday, from everything that I heard and have read in the Eagles case, they stunk it up at the first half, you know. And what happened is the Sirianni just absolutely went off at halftime, and also some of the players like Hurts did, you know. And then you just saw the way he took over with his receivers because Saquon was not getting any yardage to speak of, not like his big, 150-yard games. But that's what I think leadership is when you're down and you're playing a really good team, and then you come back. Now, granted, there were some things that went on to block the field goal, which Jordan Davis. I know your wife was happy about that.
Well, yeah. If in doubt, draft a Georgia player. One thing I will tell you is, as a Baltimore Oriole fan, I loved me some Earl Weaver. I loved that half turnaround back. We can't be on home plate. Like, every now and again, as a coach or a manager or whatever, you got to get thrown out of the game to show your players that you actually give a damn. And one of the things with Harbaugh is, like, he just kind of looks like he's got poopy pants over there on the sidelines. Let's show some fire. Like, get in there and, like, give me a 15-yard penalty because I called you a word that I shouldn't have called you. You know what I mean? Like, show your players that you actually have a little bit of fire, a little bit of kick juice. You know what I mean? Like,
his brother.
Well,
his brother.
Correct. I mean, like, I watch the Orioles now. Tony Mansolino he's the wettest dish rag I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, he's never going to ever do that. Like, Brandon Hyde was the same way. Like, give me somebody who wants to manage that team that has a little bit of fire in their belt. Give me somebody who doesn't mind getting kicked out every now and again. I mean, like, for me, Earl Weaver was like the best manager of all time. You know what I mean?
No, we're talking about, but I meant when you were talking about Harbaugh, that's what I was talking about his brother, because he shows a lot of emotion.
Yeah, man. Your players need to feel that, man. They don't need to see you go out there and just like, okay, we gave up another double digit, like Eeyore. You know what I mean? Eeyore the donkey. They're like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, like,
what's the attitude of Baltimore? I mean, he's been there so long. He's won so many games. He's been in contention all the time. Yeah. Well, what is the feeling now that especially after these first 3 games of the year?
Yeah. The feeling is that Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, should have still been in Baltimore as our defensive coordinator and would have likely been our next head coach. That's the feeling in Baltimore.
Okay. I'll buy that.
They weren't going to pay the number to keep him? Is that what it was? Well, I mean,
head coach.
Well, they can't stop him. They can't. To get a head coach, you cannot stop him in the NFL.
Well, head coach money versus defensive coordinator money is quite probably significant, bump. But that's what I was reading on social media today. Because apparently the Seattle Seahawks have not given up through 3 games. They haven't given up a defensive rushing touchdown yet. So that's what they're pointing to. I mean, I don't know. That's what they're saying.
Those are comparisons they're making.
Correct.
Tick-tick-tock. Tick-tick-tock.
Oh, for Renaissance. Doug, thanks for jumping in. They'll be going. We'll see how the Ravens do this week, and a lot of big games on this weekend. But boy, oh boy, the golf takes precedent, and so does baseball. I'll see you next week, boy.
Have a great week. God bless. Take care.
Take care, Roger. Thank you, everybody that was with us this evening. Frank, our executive producer, take over and close it out.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, men and women of police and fire services. When you're out there and see somebody in uniform, please let them know you know they're there. These are very, very tough times for men and women in uniform, both domestic and abroad. These programs are dedicated to those who lost their lives in the line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman David Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Patrolman Jeffrey Yazwist, Sergeant Thomas Baker, San Diego Officer Mike Hendler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Randy Bell and Deputy Ricky Childers, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Deputy Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Chris LeVake, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Mike Zerba, Newcastle County Police, Patrolman Anafu Crispin, Lakeland PD, Deputy Josh Meyer, Nassau County Sheriff's Department, Captain Matt Letourneau, Philadelphia Fire Department, Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Ardith Hook, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Al Hogle, Longboat Key Police Department, Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol, Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department, Chief Corey Compantier, Buffalo Creek Fire Department, Deputy Ronnie Manazinski, Manatee County Sheriff's Office. My brothers and sisters, although you may be 10-7 at this point in time, but sometime we'll be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Until that time, may the rose rise up to meet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields and the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your family always in the palm of his hand. Good night. God bless and have a great weekend.